gosh. Just dropped my phone. It's fine.
Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today I'm joined by my co-host, Corinn, the SuperBlondenerd, as we're going to talk about all the games that we've been playing. Corinn, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. Just in general, what have you been playing and what are you doing? How are you doing?
Hey nerds, what's up? It's good to be back. I have been laying in bed and playing Disney Dreamlight Valley on the Switch because I have been sick. And some other things that came up, but yeah, gotten to play a lot of fun games as well. And also reading. Been back on a reading, gotten out of a reading slump, but I've been just trekking through books. So actually right now I am reading Brandon Sanderson's Tress and the Emerald Sea, which is his brand new book that came out. So that's been wonderful. So yeah.
Ooh, what were some of the tchotchkes that came with this one? Because you got the bonus thing Kickstarter with all the stickers.
The Year of Sanderson book, or not book, subscription boxes.
Yeah.
So it came with a beautiful. It looks like a barn, those like special edition Barnes and Noble, like classic hardback. So that's what the book looks like. I also got this really nice and like pretty hardy like bookmark with beautiful art on it. I think there also came like a sticker. I'm trying to think what else came in there because I'm going to actually do a whole video on like the 2 subscription boxes because I fell behind on those because I was sick and stuff. So anyway, it's fine. March was great. Yeah, so a lot of cool things, just little tidbits. So
perfect. Without getting into too many spoilers on potential things or characters from the book, let's jump into what we've been playing. So Corinn, we're going to start off with you. What are some of the games that you've been playing?
So we'll start with the one that was on the thumbnail, which is Ticket to Ride, Rails, and Sails. So I was thinking about getting Ticket to Ride for my birthday. My birthday was in March. That was like the one good thing that came out of that month. But Ticket to Ride, Rails, and Sails is a little bit of a beefier version of Ticket to Ride. So in my opinion, I think Ticket to Ride is becoming one of the newer like board game classics. I think it's a really good game that the whole family can play. It's a deck building, drafting, also worker placement or train placement, route fulfillment kind of game. It's really easy to pick up. But with Rails and Sails, you add a little bit more complication, and that's just with you're not only making train tracks, you are making ship routes. And so you have 2 decks that you can pull from. And you can also switch up the amount of cards that you always have, like, is it the drafting like table? Like 5 cards that are usually laid out.
Yeah, with the display or the market.
Yeah, the market. So with this game, you have 6 cards, 3 ships and 3 trains. But when you take from one pile or the other, you can choose what goes back into that, what displays on the market. So you could then have 5 ships and 1 train, or 3 trains, or 4 trains and 2 ships, things like that. So you can change it up. Hello, Corn.
I think Ariana just got home. Not bad, y'all. Save your ears.
And so along with trying to fulfill ship routes and train routes, which ship routes are longer than train routes, so that's like an added bonus or an added complication. You have ship cards that have 2 ships for 1 card, so that like helps expedite the process so you're not like just constantly drafting. They also have, instead of just with your regular route cards that you're trying to, or trip cards that you're trying to fulfill, there are extended trips, campaigns, I can't think of it, but it's like 4 different destinations on your route that you can that will be randomly pulled from the tickets. But if you choose to go for them, they are obviously a lot more points. And then if you don't, so those cards are cool too, because if you fulfill that campaign, that trip, I cannot think of the actual word, but If you hit all 4 destinations, you get a certain amount of points. If you have a route in that specific order, you get more points. And then, of course, you lose points if you don't fulfill that ticket. So there's just a little bit, it's for those who, like, in my opinion, it's for those who already are very familiar with Ticket to Ride, and this just adds a little bit more complication, a little bit more time to the game, makes it a little bit longer. So if you really enjoy Ticket to Ride, which is something that I do, I really enjoyed owning this and playing this and experiencing it. Yeah, and you get a world map instead of just the United States or Japan or Europe.
When I see this, it reminds me of like Eldritch Horror, where you're traveling the world trying to defeat demons. Just a lot more trains.
Yes, lots more trains, a lot more ships. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that was really added to the game other than those like extended trips. Oh yes, there's ports. I think
Okay.
it's ports. Ports are harbors, and those add additional points for each train route that like goes through
Okay.
the port. And you don't have to like have them all connect. But if you do, that's just extra added points for you. You have 3 ports that you need to place during your game. That one is probably the more annoying part of the game. So in order to place your ports, you have to have 3 matching train cards and 3 matching ship cards of the same. And they can be like 3 red trains and 3 blue ships. They don't all have to be the same color, but what of that category they have to match.
Okay.
And the other thing, the other stipulation is the cards have those anchor symbols that you see right there. But not all cards have anchor symbols. So you have to be drafting and trying to find 3 matching colors with anchors on them for each card. So that was probably the most cumbersome part of added complication that probably other than that, it is very fun. The ports again add even more points. So you're scoring like 200, 300 points in the Ticket to Ride, which is a lot.
So how often are you going to go to Ticket to Ride Rails and Sales over the original? Is this one that you like a lot? Where is it with your like tier ranking of all the Tickets to Rides? Because I know you've played Europe. I know you've played the original. Have you played any of the other maps?
So I've played the original Ticket to Ride. I have played Ticket to Ride Europe. I have played the Amsterdam one, which is like a smaller.
Mhm.
And then it's like, I think this one also came with Europe. But you flip it over and it's like Japan and Italy.
Ooh, that's kind of
like,
cool.
Yeah, like 2 different specific sectors.
Ooh.
So those are fun. Oh yeah, that came with. We haven't tried those yet either. So with Ticket to Ride Rails and Sales,
Great Lakes.
the map is reversible, which is a very interesting choice of going from like world scale to Great Lakes. But I haven't tried the Great Lakes yet, so I'll have to let you know how that goes. But it's the same. It seems like the same concept, just different area, and obviously different map layout. So out of all of them,
Did I stump you?
no, I would probably still either do Europe or Rails and Sales. I think those would be my
really?
2
Okay.
go-tos. Yeah.
Wow.
It just depends on how long I want to play.
Poor OG Ticket to Ride.
No, it's so good. I mean, I like the Europe because of the stations. Helps you have a little bit more forgiveness if you can't make your route, because it's very annoying. Yeah, but I like those. Amsterdam's really fun if you want it to be a quick game, because Ticket to Ride can take longer, especially if you're teaching. So yeah, I think I enjoy Ticket to Ride, so I would choose more of the longer games.
Gotcha. This one to me, I don't know if you saw my rating earlier, but I rate this one a 6. It's one of my lower rated Ticket to Rides, and that mainly has to do with the start of the game and almost the unpredictability of where your routes and whatnot are going to go, because you have to choose your trains at the very start. It reminds me of what's the game? Arabian Nights, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
Tales of the Arabian Nights. So where you're just arbitrarily picking these conditions, and then you're having to self-correct based on the paths that you're dealt. And then, as you mentioned with the harbor cards, it's got these like tiny little things that you're always concerned about that don't feel all that impactful or that huge. I've only played this once or twice, I think. I have a friend that likes this one, but it's not one that I return to. For my ranking, I think I would still, I like the original a lot because there's no overhead and it's just, you
True.
play, it feels so good. It's so simple. I like the original a lot, but Europe is also great if you have experienced and are a little burnt with getting wrecked by getting blocked and whatnot with that high competitive play. It's good stuff. So I like the Ticket to Ride series, and I want to try New York and Amsterdam because of that small map size. That's a great concept. I love that.
Yeah. Amsterdam was definitely really fun. I do agree. Like, I've definitely seen on because I was looking through a Ticket to Ride like forum for
strats.
for what people wanted, and that would help indicate what I wanted for my birthday. Rails and Sails, I think, was like number 5 out of all the Ticket to Rides that have come out.
Pretty high.
It is pretty high, but it was saying like, if you don't like longer games, don't get it. Like, it's not. I think it was 5. I might be wrong. But yeah, I really enjoy Ticket to Ride, and other than the Harbor, which is definitely like when we first played it, my husband almost completely forgot about it. And I was like, do you remember the harbors? And so he was just then like, oh, I have to go through and find all the anchors and all that stuff. So it was definitely, that's probably the most negative thing I have to say about the Rails and Sails.
Gotcha. Anything else you want to add to Rails and Sails before closing this one out?
Nope.
Okay. Awesome. So I'll go ahead and follow your lead, and I'm going to talk about the game that was on the thumbnail as well. And this is a recent Kickstarter delivery. My friend Dan and I, we played a bunch of games of it. We played a game of it on Thursday, and I'm hoping to play more today, get into some of the expansion content. And so far, first impressions, this game is a lot of fun, and it hits all of my right buttons. This is Darwin's Journey. So this is a Euro game that my friend, chairman of the board, Dan, was also extremely hyped for, and different Dan, of course, but we both had it on our like most anticipated games for quite a few years running, but it finally delivered. So Darwin's Journey is a worker placement game, and worker placement games have to do something interesting and special, I think, in order to stand out, because there's just so many of them. But I think that Darwin's Journey does something simple, but also interesting and fun, honestly, as you are crafting these powers and abilities of your workers. You can add these seals to them in order to give them specific colors, and then based on the colors that you're placing onto them, you can actually send them to specific worker placement spots. So I'll show you the player board here, and as you play, there's an action where you can attach seals to your different characters, and then once you get enough seals, you give them distinguished abilities. So that means that they're going to give you extra end game points, but based on the actions that you send them to, they're also going to activate bonuses on those actions. And so you're developing your future plays by giving up some of your early ones in order to get these extra bonuses, but there are also these extra cards that will reward you for getting specific seal colors onto these different characters. So you have all of these scientists that work for you, and that determines your starting seal count on your characters. But then once you reach a specific seal amount on each worker, then that person becomes this specialist. They get you a special one-time bonus ability, and then for the rest of the game, they just have those seals, and you can continue taking super strong actions. So it's a pretty satisfying feeling where you're not just giving up early actions because you are working towards something. The game is built on many objectives paired with this worker placement system, and I think that it's brilliant in the way that it offers so many different things for you to do. So not only do you have those different characters that you're working towards, but there are multiple tracks that you're going to be moving on with the different worker placement spots. And as mentioned before, based on the seals, that determines which spots you can actually do. So you go to the spot, you take the action, and you're either exploring on the ocean, which is going to give you end of round points that you're building towards, or you're going to be working on these island tracks, and you have limited islands based on how far your ships are, because if you're moving your ship on the bottom, that gives you access to more islands, and then the islands themselves have crazy bonuses. You can focus heavy on that first one. There's going to be a lot of competition because a lot of people are out there, or you can start sailing to your own island and just take your time because you've got all of that island and no one is there yet. And so you have all of these different avenues to explore, but at some point you are going to spend and spin through all of them. So you need to be doing a little bit of everything, but you're not necessarily forced to. It's about the timing. It's about the importance of when you're taking what action and who you're competing with. I was really impressed with this one, and I love the crossplay, and that objective system just sings. The other thing that I enjoy about this is the smaller objective system, and that's on the top of your board here with these tiles. These tiles are going to give you these goals that you're working towards. They're small things. You can do hard ones or you can do easier ones. And once you complete them anytime on your turn at the end of the round, you flip them over and you slot them into this board on top, giving you some ability or action. This is going to give you extra points, ways to modulate the different actions you're taking, giving you costs, giving you wild seals, giving you special tokens, ways to reuse effects and powers that you already have. So it's a little objective that you're taking on your way to your big objectives, tied with your worker placement objectives and upgrading system. And it's just boom, boom, boom. It's like firing on all shots. I love it. Upgrading your workers, and it just has this last mechanism that I want to talk about that leads to my first question that I think is just an extra addition. So the board itself is pretty dang busy. You're going to have this huge thing in front of you. You've got those map tracks on the bottom here with your ships and your placement. And then at the top, you have all of your worker placement spots. But there's an action on the bottom here where you can actually unlock new worker placement spots. And that's the thing that I want to talk about here. So my question to you is, what are the best incentives to creating new worker spaces? And so in this game, the way it works is only 2 people can take this action around. And when you take this action, you have to pay a cost to actually build a worker placement spot. Normally, that sounds pretty awful because why would you do that? Everybody else is going to get to use that action beforehand. But in this game, they do something awesome where not only do you immediately get to take the action of the spot that you create, but you get to ignore the seal requirements to actually take that action, which is so cool because you are unlocking new spaces for the game. You're giving new goals for players to go towards so they can get the seals to actually utilize that spot in the future, but you also get to immediately ignore the cost, which means you're getting to take a super powerful action immediately. Yes, you're giving up the ability to snag one of those other spots that's available. You're giving the options to everybody else, but you get to ignore the requirements. And I think that's such a great concept. So you get all of this stuff for doing this unlock. And I'm curious, what games have you played where there are incentives to actually creating new worker placement spaces?
I can't think of one where it's like you are actually creating a new worker space, but kind of reusing the same space. Like, so I
Okay.
think of like Arnak, where you land on a space and you get those bonuses once you unlock that, once you explore that new territory.
I think that actually is exactly this mechanism. That's actually one of the games that I
Okay.
was going to bring up as an example too. Yeah, I think that's a perfect example. Lost Ruins of Arnak. How does that process work? Can you explain it a little bit for the viewers?
Sure. So just like any worker placement, most of your characters only have 2 workers that you can go and
Mhm.
explore. In order to explore, you have to have 3 compasses or 6 compasses, which is something that you can collect during each of your turns. And once you land on a new a new space, you collect an idol, which you can use for other bonus turns or bonus moves throughout the gameplay. So that's already something that you collect once you explore. So that's a really good incentive. And then you explore by uncovering a new land tile, a new um,
Ruins, site? I
yeah,
don't remember what
ruin
they're called.
site. And each site is unique with beautiful artwork and has different, usually 3 or 4 different resources or,
Mhm.
yeah, resources usually of just free resources that you will get once you explore. The other thing is when you explore that place, then you also get a like legendary beast to defeat. But if you defeat that legendary beast, you defeat that by paying certain resources that it requires. Sometimes it works really well in tandem, and the sites will give you resources that will then in turn help you defeat the beast. Sometimes it doesn't work that great, but when you get the beast, it also has a bonus that you can save and use in your gameplay like throughout the game. So it's really good. I
I
really
think
enjoy
this
it.
is
Yeah,
a
that's perfect.
Yeah, I think this is a great example because you get so much stuff in Lost Ruins of Arnak when you do this
Yeah.
action. You're like, okay, I get idols, which give me bonus actions. I get to take extra things. I have the option to deal with this thread later in the round. I can totally ignore it if I want to, but if I do get rid of it, I get a bunch of points. It gets me a bonus action later. Arnak is just another game that just feels great to play because you're just getting all of these little successive actions. And I think that
Yes.
this exploration mechanism evolves the board, but makes it such a thing you want to do. So I think it's a
Yeah.
great pick, Corinne.
Yeah. And then so the more costly place to explore, the
Mhm.
more resources and um, bonuses you get, which is really nice. You get 2 idols instead of 1, and then usually those level 2 um, sites have even more resources that you will get.
Yep, it is such a great feeling, and if you can time it in a way where you are the first player next round, you can reuse that spot again on the next turn. Ah, so
Mhm.
satisfying. Excellent. So if you are watching in the comments now, please let me know what are the best incentives to games for your worker placement games for creating new spaces. Or if you're watching in the future, let us know and I'll make sure to respond to them there. So best incentives to creating new worker spaces. So that's the first game that I've been playing. That is Darwin's Journey. I'm loving it and I hope that I get to play more today. I read all of the expansion rules last night, so hopefully I get to play with the Firelands expansion, and I've already tossed in all of the extra modular content that just gives you more variability. So looking forward to it. Pirates also look like a lot of fun. So that's Darwin's Journey. Corinn, what's your next game that you've been playing?
I have been playing Tapestry with its brand new expansion, Fantasies and Futures.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So we ordered that, pre-ordered that, brought it in, and I actually really enjoyed. I was like, can they add anything else to Tapestry? Because there's a lot that they've added and like have changed over time. And this should, I think they said that this is the final expansion. With
Totally.
Who knows? But with Fantasies and Futures, it comes with more maps, more Tapestry cards, and I think more
technology,
civilizations. Yeah, technology,
locations.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of, it's a more stuff expansion, that's for sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have only played, I think once actually, now that I think about it, and maybe twice. We played with the Fantasies and Futures with everything, obviously. The thing that I really enjoyed that added to the gameplay, I think in a really good way, is the new Tapestry cards have a little symbol on the upper part of the Tapestry cards, which is like a little bonus that if you align your Tapestry cards next to each other on the board and both of those symbols, because they can be on the right or the left of the Tapestry card, sometimes it's on both sides. If you line those cards up, those symbols up, you get both of those bonuses. So I think they're like called enchantments. So you could get extra resources. You could get an extra Tapestry card. You could move up on the word has escaped me. The different tracks, the different tracks for free. So that was really like a good incentive, making the Tapestry cards just that much more important and like helpful in the game. And something that, you know, because sometimes you get either when you like when played, you get that one bonus, or it's like throughout that era, you'll get those bonuses. So with those enchantments, that helps just a little bit more. I played actually with that bottled city in a bottle for my map, and that one was really neat because it was a tiny map. Yes, those right there. So you can see that some of them have one on the right and left, and then some just have on the left and some on the right. So I think those are like a little bit more powerful. So those are fun too. And I like all of the different, it went very fantastical, which I'm okay with because I love fantasy. But yeah, so the city in a bottle was really small. You don't actually place any landmarks on there, but every landmark that you gain going up on the tracks, you get, I think it's 6 extra victory points overall, which is nice because then you don't have to worry about, it's kind of both where it's like landmarks help take up your map, but also they take up your map and then you can't, they like overflow. So there's like positives and negatives to that.
My friend Robert and I, we played a lot of this expansion, and I played City in a Bottle, and it is kind of nice because the landmarks aren't necessarily the strongest things in general. They're not something you should super chase for, but I felt that City in the Bottle, I played with this one as well. I felt that it was super weak compared to some of the others. There was this exploration, like winter track one where you're trying to cover this expedition map. And if you completely cover all of it and they're different lengths, you can get like 1 or 2 resources and it allows you to put them in weird shapes. There was also one where you're like trying to get these orcs to find their castle in the center of the map. And once you do so, you get 2 resources for each. So I felt like just the advantage from that was gigantic, getting those resources early. So I like this concept of just like, if you get a landmark, cool, it's just 5 points, not something you have to worry about. So I like
Yeah.
that you can focus on something. But
Mhm.
I think the power level thing is definitely a thing still in this expansion. Still fun. I like playing Tapestry, but oh my gosh, it can be pretty swingy, I think, still.
Yeah, it's so funny because they're just like constantly working on releasing new updates to the rules and to the civilizations, and they're like, "I can help you. I can make it better, please."
Speaking of
Um,
civilizations, what civilization did you get to play? What'd you think?
I actually did the Fae Folk,
Oh, nice. Okay. How would
and
they work?
that one was also like kind of it's you can strategize because you go around the loop with your like a cube, and depending on where you land, you get those bonuses. I'm trying to actually read how you like fill up, yeah, how many tapestry cards you get, which is actually helpful because you can get a lot of tapestry cards and you're like, these are useless, like what can I do, because
Mhm.
I can only fill 3 spaces.
Ooh, that's
But
kind
with
of
the
nice.
tapestry cards and the Fae Folk, the number of tapestry cards you have, the number of times you go around that loop. So
Ah.
if you strategize and like figure out exactly what number, like what space you want to land on, you can, get rid of tapestry cards or try to get the skip the tapestry cards or gain the tapestry cards depending on where you are on the track to get that specific place that you land.
That's kind of cool. I love that
Yeah.
there's actually like a space tile in there. There's space
Yes.
tiles, there's ways to get extra scoring bonuses. That one sounds way cool,
Yeah.
actually. I like that
It
a
was
lot.
really fun. I enjoyed that one. I'm trying to remember. My husband might have been the artificers, but I was too focused on the Fae Folk.
Understandable. A lot of new stuff going on.
Yeah. Super fun. I'm really excited to explore all of the different places. Like it was like the hellscape or something. I don't know what it is. The underworld with the ogres. I don't know what it is.
Now, one of the new things that they add with this is the requirement for a lot of technologies to have you
Mhm.
dabble in the future, and I think that's kind of cool. There's this mechanism that you'll see on a lot of cards that say put this onto the phase 5 spot, and that means on your final income turn of the entire game, you get this extra bonus. And so you're planning for the far, 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 far future, which is cool. And then a lot of the technology will say you have to have dabbled in the future to level this up, but you get some crazy powerful things. So it's that trade-off of I'm investing in later, but getting an immediate bonus now for
Mhm.
doing that. So I like that concept as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they've definitely added some neat variation and like
Mhm.
it adds to the theme as well. So it's very cool.
It's some things that they haven't explored yet, and I think that
Mhm.
they're pretty good. I do want to quickly ask you for this. Was I playing this wrong? I read that when you play the tapestry cards with the things on the sides, you
Mhm.
get it no matter what. If it's on the left, you get it right away. If it's on the right, you get
Oh,
it in the next round. So I thought that was how they worked, but
I
I might
I
be
mean,
wrong. I get rules wrong all the time, so not a big deal. But this is good. I'm gonna go check the rules later. So
right.
don't worry about it right now. But
I can blame my husband as well
nice.
if I was wrong. So
Blame him for me. Thank you.
yes,
Awesome. Just want to make sure that I'm doing things right. Otherwise, this will show up on a future rules mistakes video. I'm doing pretty good recently.
that's good. Just
Anything else
blame
on
me if you
fantasies and futures?
no.
Okay. So that is the newest Tapestry expansion. That is Tapestry Fantasies and Futures. All right, this next one is an older game that has a fancy brand new reprint. A lot of people are enjoying this one right now, and that is Raw. It's a Reiner Knizia auctioning game, and it has been a blast, honestly. This is one of those classic games where you set it up and you just start playing, and it feels great the whole time. You're engaged the entire time. The turns are lightning quick, and it's simple set collection paired with simple auctioning, but it's a unique one-time auction system where every single round you only get to win 3 auctions potentially, but the auctions that you win not only determine the tiles that you're scoring, but also the strength of your auctioning tiles in the next round. So you're always thinking about the potential fallout of every single action you take because of the consequences in the now and in the future. It's a lovely game, and the new art design is beautiful. We have an edition that is like all wooden tiles and metal tokens, and the fact that it's just a bag of tiles, a set of score markers, and then a player board. You just play. There's like no setup. You just start going, and every turn you're pulling tiles or auctioning, and you're thinking about the timing each time you do so. But the decision space is big while also being extremely small with only 3 different actions that you're picking from. And the the gameplay loop of pulling out tiles and determining the perfect time to start the auction feels so good. So the first action you can do is you take tiles out, you put them out on the board. Second action you can do is if you have like a special tile, you can swap out the tile that's currently on the board for that special tile, and that kind of gets you this a guaranteed tile win. And then the last action you can do is you can invoke Ra, which means that you are starting the auction. And based on the tiles that are in the center, that's what you're actually auctioning for. And so you're using these turquoise tiles as your currency. And if you start the auction, you get to go last. You get to see what everybody else does. So you're pushing your luck on when this happens because you only have a limited amount of time because there's a built-in timer in the tile bag. Every time you see one of those red tiles, it's going to move this boat along this track. So if you get to the point where the boat makes it to the end of the track, the round ends immediately. So if you didn't actually win the tiles, or maybe you took too long on actually starting the auctions, you're racing against time. You're racing against the other players and trying to push your luck to see how much you can get with your crappy tiles. It feels so good because you can have like a 1, 3, and 5 and still do fine because of the timing and the way that you're just playing out the hands. It's a really cool game as you're strong arming specific auctioning plays and trying to make the most out of your tiles. Rod does one of the coolest things that Arnak does with a lot of his auction games, though, and that is the auctioning for negative things. Not only are you trying to do a variety of set collection, getting multiples of specific buildings, trying to get majorities in some tiles because these tiles are going to score during the end of the round, but also at the very end of the game, so they can even score multiple times if you get them early enough. But it also adds negative tiles into the row here. So Ra, whenever you pull out these red tiles, if you win that auction, in addition to getting all the positive tiles, you also have to pay a penalty of some sort. As you can see here, there are a couple of tiles that will say specifically, hey, you need to get rid of, let's see if I can zoom in on this one. Oh my gosh, calm down. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. Okay, so you can see in here, there are some tiles that will have these X's on them. And these X's mean that you get rid of that specific tile type in front of you. And I love this. It means that each of the auctions has one thing that could always be wrong. Like you're pulling out, you're trying to get as many tiles so that if you win the auction, you get a bunch of stuff. But all of a sudden you get a negative tile. And now you have to think about the implications of that negative tile with the rest of the positives. Oh, yes, this will give me some of these monuments, but I'll have to lose 2 of my pharaoh tiles. Oh, yeah, this will help me out with my floods, but I'm going to have to lose this other thing that I've been building towards. And all of a sudden, you kind of don't want to win that auction anymore. And maybe you'll let somebody else do it, but that could be an opportunity for somebody with a low number to actually get good value off of their bad tiles. Oh, it's so good. And the fact multiple of these can happen in the same tile pile right here. This is a great use of the negative things in auctions. And that brings me to my second question. That is, what games have you auctioning for negative things? Corinn, do you have any games like this that you've played or experienced? How do they tackle this?
I'm trying to, like, what you're describing, I'm like, I know I've played things like this, but it's like not coming to me right now. The only thing that's coming to me is like 7 Wonders, but none, I mean, there are things that can become negative if you don't go for them, like the military.
Okay. So just ignoring them can be bad?
Yeah. So like if you don't, I mean, so yeah. So with military, if you don't have any military cards, then you're obviously going to be defeated, and you get like negative points per round because there's always a battle at the end of each round. And I think it's like every time that you get defeated, you get a negative point or a negative point symbol for each round. But if you have the most, then you get positive points. And so that's like an extra way to get points for 7 Wonders. I think that's how it is, because it's like if you don't go for it, you're going to always get negative penalties because you're not winning. But if you're just constantly going for the military, then obviously you're missing out on other cards that are helpful to like build your wonders or work with what are they called? The guilds. So it's an interesting thing of it's not like crazily negative, but it's also like I have to kind of go for this a little bit, you know? So
Gotcha.
that's the one example I'm coming up with. I know I've played more like specific ones where there's like actual negative things that you're going for or can be used to your advantage, but my brain is not
No
Can't
problem.
beat them.
One thing that comes to my mind is another game actually by the same designer. This is High Society. So it's a
Mm,
small card game that's also an auction, and the round consists of flipping out a card from this deck and then everybody auctioning for it, and you just do this until the end game condition triggers.
mhm.
But some of these cards, instead of paying money to take them, they're going to be awful. They're going to be cards that you do not want, because they're going to be things like you lose 5 points, or they're going to be things like you lose half of your score or something terrible. So you're trying to make sure that you don't win these, but they change the auction up just a little bit, because if you are bidding for these, you're instead bidding to not take them. So it's my turn, and I say, I'll pay $2 to not take the card. And then it goes to you, you say, oh, $5 to not take the card. It comes back to me. I can either increase my bid to outbid you, or I can stop. Take the bad card. I get to keep my money, and then everybody else loses the money. That's so cool. So much power with
Yeah.
taking such a negative thing. But the thing you're taking is really bad. So you can control the flow of the game, the flow of the cash. And I think that's gigantic and a huge implication for the entire game, because the twist here is that whoever spends the most money at the end of the game automatically loses. So you're trying to toe this barrier of, okay, I can have some power and control based on when I duck out of this auction, but I'm going to have to overcome this negative consequence as well. So I like that a lot in High Society. And I think that may be something that made me attached to Raw and made me just enjoy it so much, was because it also has that negative auction mechanism. So I enjoy that a lot in High Society and in Raw as well.
I love the artwork.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Good.
This is one that I play a lot at school with my kids. They have a good time with it. Yeah,
That's
they enjoy it. They love the concept of making somebody lose automatically by spending the most money. And I'm like, yeah, you see, saving is good. You should always save just a little bit.
Kids are ruthless.
They are ruthless. So that is Raw and High Society's mechanisms for auctioning for negative things. And I'm enjoying Raw a lot. Lovely game. Corinn, what is your last game for today?
Today's last game is Frosthaven.
Nice.
So we specifically, I have some stats. So we went on at the beginning of March. Yeah. We went on like a board game weekend with our friends.
Yeah.
The main thing we played was Frosthaven. So overall, we played about 15 hours of Frosthaven. And in those 15 hours, we played about 9 scenarios. We lost 4 and won 5.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And also we unlocked a new race, species, character that you can go for. Yeah. So yeah, it was honestly like it was a really fun time, but it was also very frustrating. There was definitely some scenarios where I think we either came at it the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I was learning, and we had like a whole discussion about this afterwards with my character. With my character,
Corinn, get your stuff together. Is that what happened?
Yeah. So my character is the I think it's the Aether Bones Weaver, Bones Keeper, Bones Person, Bones Shaper.
The Necromancer.
Yeah. So you have 2 different ways that you can basically build your deck. You can go with, at least like through the things that I've been reading, you can go and really stack on the skeletons because they're pretty quick summons. They're not like super heavy duty, but you can keep, they're the cards that you don't lose. So you can keep respawning them. And then the other kind of way that you can go is with those kind of nasty monsters you see there. They're a little bit more heavy hitters, but most of them are, play once they die, they're gone. You lose them for that scenario. So I went this way because I was like, this is so cool. Like I really like the nasties. Like they have some big, what I thought was big punches. The Bone Shaper is honestly she is defense and like distraction to the at least the way that I'm like figuring it out. And so like I can have my skeletons come out so that they will take a punch, so that at least saves the character then on. But if I'm having like my big characters come out and they take 2 punches, they're gone, and then I can't respawn them. So it was becoming kind of a frustrating thing for me. And as well as with our team dynamic,
Mhm.
I'm not blaming my team. It was the choice, but the choices of our characters. My husband also is like more of the necromancer. He's kind of like the other death person, the
Uh-huh.
shadow person. So, and that is more, his is a lot of like waiting time because he has to set up his shadows and then he can attack and come out with like big whammies kind of thing. But because we're all like setting up, like I have to take a turn to like summon my skeletons.
Mhm.
He has to take a turn to do his, like we were not being efficient. So the thing about Frosthaven, and it's so good, is that like there are so many different avenues and ways that you can create your characters and build up your characters and set it up. But I
Mhm.
think just the combo of our team and like the types of characters that we have one tank. We have someone who's kind of like an all around pretty good.
Mhm.
And then we have me and my husband who are more of the same type of character, and he was also getting really frustrated with his character, but once he kind of got the hang of like shadows are so important and
Mhm.
that's how he gets his moves out, he was really starting to enjoy it. And so then I was over here being like, I'm not doing good, like so that's why I think we lost some of our scenarios, is just because our setup was not the best for the type of scenarios that we were doing, which was a lot of like just spawn after spawn after spawn of just like never ending enemies coming. And we didn't have enough, I think, power to like take them. And then I was trying to use my big guys, but then they would disappear pretty early on in the scenario. And then I
Mm.
don't have anything to kind of shield our people. And then we wind up dying or
Gotcha.
not, or running out of turns
Mhm.
to like finish the scenario. So this is like it's not a, what's the word? It's not like bashing Frosthaven at all.
Yeah.
It's just the,
It's bashing your party.
yeah, it's the
Oh,
complicate, mainly
man.
bashing me, because it's like it's the complication and the like the choices that we make which really
Mhm.
impact how your scenarios are going. So again, I really don't think anything had to do with my party,
Yeah.
because we had a tank, we have an all around really good like person. It was, oh no, she's now the bone and spear. They're now the bone and spear, but we started with the blink blade and another, I can't think of it. It's not the bone and
The
what's the
drifter.
bone and spear? Yes, I think it's the drifter. So we had those, but then they
You're tired.
retired. So then we
Oh,
had new things. So one of
no.
ours is the big snowy monster. I can't think of their name,
The
but
Alder.
he's the tank. And then they are now the banner and spear because these are the characters that we have available.
Gotcha.
And so my husband, he's like, I'm never retiring. It's never going to happen. Like he just the way that his objective is, like personal objective and all that stuff. He's just like, this is never going to happen. So we're working now that we finished that whole weekend, and I was just like, this was rough, guys. We talked about it, and basically for our sanity, my sanity, and my emotional feelings, he was like, we can totally reshape how you like built your deck.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what we're doing, and I'm excited to get back into Frosthaven,
Yeah.
and hopefully with this setup, do a lot better.
And I think you spoke to one of Frosthaven's biggest strengths is the fact that your decisions matter so much. Your
Mhm.
level up decisions, your decisions in this scenario from turn to turn, from that very initial turn. If you were
Yeah.
summoning that big spawn, it has consequences later. So is it
Mhm.
worth playing? And that's one of the reasons I love Frosthaven so much, is
Oh yeah,
because of that. Your
yeah.
choices are so important from every single step of the way. I love it. I think Frosthaven is wonderful.
It's so cool, and that's like the fun. It's absolutely like a video game
Mhm.
where you get stuck on that one level, and you're just like, why can I not defeat this? And it's those learning experiences and the setup. And it's so cool that there's so many ways you could set up your character. And I am sure there is a way that I could use like the big bads or the bigger summons, stronger summons
Mhm.
in a better way. But I think right now, and the way that I am playing, it's better to do the skeletons and send them out and go that direction. So yeah, it's so cool of just the options and the depth of each character and like how you can really formulate and get like a good gameplay out of it. Were you so shocked of how many scenarios we lost?
Yeah, we've only lost one so far, and we
Dang!
played a lot of Frosthaven. So
That's
I'm about
really
to retire my second character. I'm
wow.
playing the locked coral class. So it's
Ooh, yeah,
no
we're about to unlock
spoilers.
those. We're about to unlock
It's
one of those.
cool.
Yeah,
It is cool.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm almost done with that one, but
That's so
we
cool.
have had very close scenarios. We've lost one. So we lost one for sure, played it, redid our strategy, but we haven't had any big big destruction. I think that's because in the two-player mode it is a bit more manageable. But
Mm,
the four-player, it can get crazy because
yeah,
there are just so many enemies that the
yes.
initiative can just like really wreck you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that was definitely one of the things where we're like, this better not be a spawning scenario. Because we did like a bunch in a row, and I think that
Yeah,
also
those are
just
bad.
yeah, that just added to the frustration too.
And
So
it's like if you're playing with 4 players, you add an elite instead of the normal, and so it's just way
yep,
harder.
everything's elite and it's awful.
Now, Corinne, here's a good question for you from Hop, one of our viewers. He
Ooh,
says, when board game reviewers describe a game as being like a video game, what do they mean
ooh.
specifically? Just curious. What do you mean by that? Because I have a different meaning of this than maybe you.
Probably. So for me, specifically with Frosthaven, I'm comparing it to, I think a lot of the mechanics. So like each scenario is like a level, different, and but it also has like an overall story. Just like
Mhm.
with a lot of video games, you're dealing with levels and scenarios, but it's helping achieve the overall story and the um, overall objectives of everything, and you're leveling up your characters a lot like what happens in video games where you can level up your characters and get them stronger, and more experience as well. So mainly that one specifically with Frosthaven, that's what I compare it a lot to, as well as like farming simulation with the whole Frosthaven,
Yeah,
like
that's
at
pretty.
home, and like being able to level up your buildings and create more resources and buy more resources so that you can build stuff or unlock stuff, which is a lot of things that happen with video games. So that's mainly what I mean of just like kind of similar mechanics, but just on the board.
Gotcha. For me, I don't play a lot of video games. I
Mhm.
think most of the video games I do play are basically card games. So I play a lot of Marvel Snap, and then I played Hearthstone for a while, and
Cool.
then Slay the Spire. I think those are like the last 3 video games I've played in the last
Mhm.
like 3 years, 2 years. So
Yeah.
I'm not a really big video gamer, but and I don't know if I actually say that board games are like video games, but I like your description of it, where it's that feeling of leveling up. There's always that
Yeah.
constant progression, and I think that's something that people that play video games find so satisfying, is that you're
Mhm.
always unlocking something, whether it
Yeah.
be a new weapon or a new item or a new skill ability. It's a reason that I love games like Too Many Bones so much, because I'm always getting something, and it's just that dopamine rush of, oh yes, feels so good. So I think the thing I like in video games right now are the reduction of the management. And I think that's one of the cool things in video board games. Like Marvel Snap, it's all there, and you can do cool things with like
Mhm.
random generated things or digital implementations. I think that's really cool. So that's one thing that I really like about Marvel Snap.
Yes. Yeah. And I think too with these longer campaign types of board games, that's what I really feel like as well comparing to video games
Mhm.
where there's like a story laid out. There are levels you're going to go through, and again that leveling up and fighting so many different bosses and enemies and things like that. So all of that kind, at least from the video games that I personally play, and then experiencing like Frosthaven. That's how I describe it. But definitely not all board games that are like video games, and not all video games are board games. They are definitely separate entities. I just enjoy the fact that, just like you said, Mackenzie, like the feeling of like leveling up and
Mhm.
gaining experience and knowing that there's like a big story overall is like really fun.
Yep. So great question, Hop. Yep. Leveling up, overall
Yes.
narrative, just that feeling of constant progression for sure. But great question. Excellent.
Yes.
Anything else on Frosthaven, Corinne?
I'm excited to, like I said, to get back into it and hopefully play
Mhm.
better.
I hope you like this new playstyle. I think that's a cool concept of the necromancer character, that they have summons that don't disappear. I think that's a great
Yes.
playstyle.
Yeah.
Cool. Good luck. I hope that everything goes well and that your party appreciates your new updated playstyle.
I'm so sorry.
All right, so we're moving on to my last game, and this is a game that has been in the back of my head for a long time that I'm just like, I really need to play that game. That game just sounds like a game that I want to play. It's a combination of two games that I enjoy, Mechs vs. Minions, which is a programming game based on the League of Legends universe, which is so much fun as you're putting all of these abilities and powers and then moving your characters to destroy things, and The Mind, which is a card game where limited communication, players are putting cards into a pile. In this case, in my game called Quirky Circuits, you're combining the two, and it's a programming game where all of the players are putting their cards into a command line face down. So you're not sure who is actually playing what cards to maneuver this character across a map. And that concept just sounded so cool to me that I was like, okay, I gotta try this. I gotta find it at some point. But there's two versions of it now. There's a like introductory version, and then there's the original version. And I had heard that you should go find the original version if you can, and luckily I was able to find a copy. So what it has is you are choosing one of 4 mechs, and these little mechs are things that are helping out with tasks, whether it be a sushi chef, or we played with a bumblebee just recently that's going around and dropping off pollen. And then the first one that we played with was a cat Roomba. So it was a Roomba that if it hit a wall, it would turn automatically, and like a Roomba, it's great. So you are going to be playing scenarios, and these scenarios are all stored into this adventure book. And then the adventure book is going to tell you to place tokens on it, and you'll set up your character and complete some mission on this book. And then after you decide to your scenario and your character and your mini, you'll shuffle up this deck of cards, and then you'll put your cards face down in this command line as this character travels around the book. The first missions are pretty dang simple, introducing you to the overall game mechanisms. You have the Roomba cat here, and they'll be trying to clean up all the dust bunnies. That's your goal. Really straightforward and simple, but then you start adding additional rules. You'll add new cards to the deck. You'll get characters that have abilities where you can do multiple movements. You'll start bumping into things, and maybe if you hit this table, this pot will fall, and that's another thing you got to clean up. So you're giving yourself extra objectives based on the errors, and you're trying to do this within a specific time limit, which is the battery life of your character. And this game is so fun. You can start playing in less than a minute. You can scale the difficulty up however much you want, and you can add to the complexity based on the robot that you're choosing. The thematics are excellent. The little blurbs are cute and descriptive and awesome. I think that this game is pretty dang fun. So there is a second version of this game where you are only playing with 2 bots, but it's like half the price, and you can get into the system pretty easily. I saw it at like Barnes & Noble. You can get it online. I think that's the one that I have linked in the description below. But the game system itself, it works. It's fun. It's cooperative. There's no quarterbacking. And one little touch that I love about the cards themselves is on the back of the cards, there is a hint to what you're actually playing. And that's something that you can look at the other players to see what they're actually doing, to see what's going on, to make your plays and your plans. And once you get in sync with your partners at the table, this game sings. I love it. I love looking at each other, thinking about what you're playing. You're sliding a card down, and everybody has to contribute at least 1. You have to contribute at least a total of 5 to actually take your actions. You're putting these cards down, thinking about, okay, I'm turning. Where am I turning? What do you think? Good. So you're trying to use your information of cards that you already played, plus the cards that are in the decks, because you know exactly how many of each type of card there are. So you can predict based on what things are being played, how you're playing them, the rate at which you're doing it, how fast you're doing it. So it's a mix of cadence with this imperfect information. It's great. I like this game a lot. And one thing that is just like the cherry on top, and the fact that the game is so easy to play and just get going, is this spiral bound book. And this is one of the coolest things that more games need to always do. We've seen this in a lot of games, and that is the games that are drastically improved using map books. And this scenario book is awesome. You have the entire setting. There are rules on one of the sides, and you can just flip it out and it's ready to go. Corinn, what games do you like that have these books, and what games do you think would be drastically improved with these books?
Well, we talked about this before we started streaming, which was Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. That just really expedited starting your scenarios, and we're able to start your scenarios way quicker. And that was just super fun and it's just all together. It's right there. Really enjoyed having those scenarios basically set up for you. All you had to do was place the enemies or some, I don't even think you had to place like props. but it could be
There's
wrong.
a couple things. I think there were no, you
Yeah.
didn't, because it was like I don't think there were any abilities that moved them, just things
Mm,
that destroy them. So you had like destroy tokens.
yeah.
So yeah, they eliminated that completely,
Yeah.
which does limit the design space, which is why they
Sure.
wanted to use tokens, but
Yeah.
it also made the setup just so easy. Oh my gosh, I
Hmm.
love it.
Yeah. So that was really fun. I think so. Yeah, I think this game would be improved. I don't know, drastically improved, but I think having Catan with a book like this,
Ah,
just kind of like either maybe scenario based, but mainly like just random setups that you can just like leaf through, so that each time, it is random, because that's usually how you set it up, is like spacing them out and just randomly, flipping them over or something. But I think with Catan, again, it's like expediting that start process, and just being able to have a board ready and then having so many different variations of the board, I think would just add to the game. Now I know that there's like a billion and two um, versions or expansions, so I think it would be interesting to see how they could like input all of that together, maybe to like a big Mondo book where it's like you can use this for this. But I think it would make the game at least quicker to set up and just easier.
I actually like this concept a lot. And a lot of games do this very similar to Quirky Circuits, where you would have scenarios built in. So you'd be like,
Hmm.
oh, turn to page 10 for this scenario of Catan,
Hmm.
where maybe wheat is a lot harder to get or something like that.
Yeah,
And I could see that being really cool for Catan, where you have scenarios that are specifically made to make the game lean towards a specific play style or strategy. That's a
yeah,
cool concept. I like this one. That's a good shout.
good old classic.
Go
Someone's got
classic Catan.
Indiana Jones.
You got it. Let's
Sweet.
see. Game that I think would be improved drastically with a map book. Oh my gosh. I think very similar to what we just said with Catan. I think that anything that has terrain that you're placing on a board would make sense. I actually, my example here was going to be Frosthaven, but we kind of already talked about that. So I think I'm all done with this one. If we want to go with the comments, if anybody has a comment on a game that they would love to have a map book, I'd love to hear that. But I think
Mhm.
that's what I'm going to say. I think Frosthaven would be amazing if they just got that map book. I know they talked about it. Please give us one. That would be
Yeah.
amazing. Yes,
What do
please.
you think about like Scythe? Do you think that would be? I know
Scythe
Scythe
with
is a
a
pretty
map
big
book.
board, pretty big map. I'm
Hmm.
wondering. I also don't know if they have that with the
With a
story mode.
modular. With
Yeah.
a. Hmm. I think it could work. I think it'd be something similar to the Catan book, where
Mhm.
the game setup itself doesn't necessarily require it, but I think it could
Yeah.
be cool for making scenarios. They
Yes.
did a modular board with Scythe where you can make your own areas, and I think
Yes.
that can definitely get pretty lopsided pretty quickly if
Hmm.
based on your combination of your board, putting specific resources next to each other, it can get ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we don't play with that one very much if we do play Scythe, but I think that could be fun, particularly as you're referencing to the Rise of Fenris campaign. I think that
Hmm.
would be cool to have a campaign set in like a new land and maybe you're
Yeah.
exploring. Um, I know Expeditions is leading into the discovery aspect of the Scythe universe, so
Yes.
that could be something that we could see there. That'd be neat. I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea too. Ooh, and then my dad here, John Franklin's joined us in the chat. What's up, Padre? He says the Undaunted game series. He says pages could be filled with new terrain, would not be limited to terrain placards from the game box. That's a great idea. So you can just open it up. You don't have to set up all those tokens. You just
Mm,
go off on whatever map. This is a great suggestion here. Nice. This is
nice.
a good one.
Good job,
Excellent.
Dad.
The Undaunted series. Sweet. So that's my last game. That is Quirky Circuits. Yeah, lovely game. I'm enjoying the programming. And that brings us to our last section here. Normally, it's all the games that we've played, but since it's been a while, our lists were getting pretty gigantic. So we're going to move this week to just the best and the worst games. So we're going to talk about the top three
Yeah.
and the bottom three of our lists, as well as upcoming games that we're just really thrilled to play. And we'll do that afterwards. So, Corinn, what are the best games that you played this past week, the top three, and what are the bottom three?
Mm. Okay. So I think I don't have like an order for these yet. I just will say like these are the top
Okay.
three that I've really enjoyed playing. Um, excuse me. Uh, Jipe. I'm gonna say it wrong. Jiper.
Yeah. Mhm.
That was a really fun two-player game that I learned recently. It has that same kind of almost tactileness that like Splendor has with the different resources and coins that you are trying to get first. And with the quick drafting and really nice colors, I just really enjoyed playing that and learning that. So I think that's a really good 2-player one that's very quick to learn, and playing lots of rounds of that one. So I really like that one. Another one was I will say the Tea Dragon Society. That was a really cute
okay.
Yeah, it was a really cute game. Again, very simple, different. Each card has like a different verb that your dragon is doing, like sleeping, eating, and each card that you pull up is either worth a point, that helps. You have to basically tableau build to help you get either season cards or cards from the market that can add more points to your tableau or give you extra bonuses at the end of the game. So, and it's just very cutesy. Again, very simple. I just enjoyed learning. So that a lot of these games that I'm listing this time are just things I learned, and it was very cute and I enjoyed. And I have eyed this one for a few years, but I never played it. And so my sister bought it. And so I was like, this is adorable. So it's very cute. I liked each season. So you go through all 4 seasons, and I like that each season is worth more. So by the end of the game, you're going for 10 points. So that was a nice little just stack on that game. And then the last one, which I will say was my top one, is That's Very Clever.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, I have been loving the game. I've been playing it by myself. And the best part is I have introduced it to so many people, and they've really enjoyed it as well. So played it with my parents, played it with friends. It's just been such a fun. This is an actual dice game that my husband will actually want to play, not just regular Yahtzee. So I'm like, ha. So yeah, it's a great. Thank you, Mackenzie, for suggesting it.
Oh, heck yes. I'm so happy you love this game.
Such a good game. It's pretty easy to pick up. I know a lot of people get very daunted by the score sheet, but it is lovely. And it's just really so satisfying when everything stacks together and snowballs, and you're I unlock this, which gives me a point here, which gives me a point here, gives me a point here. Very fun. Yeah, definitely recommend to anyone who enjoys Yahtzee or dice rolling games, but wants a little more competition. So yeah, it's been super fun. We even played it with 5 people, even though I think it's only a 2 to 4 player. So that made it a little bit more complicated, but it was very, very, very fun. So
that is awesome. I'm so happy you're enjoying this. This designer destroyed that year. 2018 was the year of Wolfgang Warsch. He did this game. He did Quacks of Quedlinburg. I think that was also 2018. And he also did The Mind. He put out all 3 of those, and he swept all the awards that year. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm good. I can retire.
Please don't keep making these games.
I know.
Please don't stop, please. Great picks. Do we want to do your worst now, or shall I start with my best?
Let's do your best, and then we'll go to worst.
Okay, so my best, I've been playing a lot of Guards of Atlantis II. I love that game. That has been my jam. Got to play all of the characters. We're diving into the expansion content now with the relics as well as the mega minions. I put out a whole tier list of my favorite characters in the game. So it's just been a lot of fun dedicating a lot of time to this game, and the fact that it's just so much fun. Oh, I love the team composition, and this is a game that I get to play with my wife Ariana, and we play on the same team and we smash. It's so fun. We wreck. It's so cool. We look at each other and we're like, okay, let's do this, and then we go off as we're playing our cards in specific orders. We're like, oh, you do this, and we think about it's so good. I love this game so much. So that's one of the best experiences for sure. Also, another game that honestly all 3 of these games I've just been enjoying so much with Ariana. The next one is Frosthaven. We've been loving Frosthaven, playing so much of it. Like I mentioned before, going to retire my next character here in a second. So loving that. And then the last game we've been loving is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. And we have played this
Ooh.
ridiculous amounts at this point. We have beat it on the original mode multiple times, and we played a lot of the crisis mode, which is the new cooperative version of it. And we've gotten to the point where I think we're a little bit on the unstoppable side, where we're playing on the hardest difficulties possible, the nightmare modes where the planet is already dying in the middle of it. And the whole point of the crisis experience is that every round something happens to the planet. And so you are always thinking about, okay, how am I going to deal with this parameter dying, or how am I going to deal with this? What cards do I need to play to get rid of these crisis tokens so that we're not going to be losing these things? And we've played it enough to where we understand the patterns, we're understanding the correct card plays in the correct order, how to draft specific things, what tiles to be ready and anticipate. And we're so in sync with it that while it's being played, we're just having a blast with it. So I'm loving it. I think that the Nightmare way is probably the way that we'll be playing from now on. So I think to ratchet up the difficulty one more time, we're going to start picking potentially the suboptimal character when you start, because at the start of the game you get 2 corporations that you draft, and then you're taking a whole hand of 8 cards. So I imagine that at this point now, to make it just a little bit more difficult, we'll choose the corporation, try to win with all the bad corporations basically, because there's some that are just not great and some that are crazy powerful. So hopefully, I think that's probably the next thing that we'll end up doing here with
that's awesome.
this. So loving that.
It's a great game
version. Yeah, lots of team-based and cooperative games in my top, and yeah, loving getting to play with Ariana.
Yeah.
Corinn, what are your worst? What are the bottom 3 for you?
So honestly, I really don't have a lot. Like all of the games that I've been looking at have not been bad, but honestly, I'm gonna put Frosthaven. But that was only because, and it's not Frosthaven, it's me, you guys. I'm just like, it has been, I guess, a learning curve with my character. And so just experiencing the frustration and just like, I really got into my head about it and was just like, basically the last couple scenarios, I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. Like, I just want to be done. Like and that's terrible because
that's bad.
I love Frosthaven, but I was just in my head and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't think I'm helping at all in this scenario. And so I think that I like talked with my team afterwards and I was like, did I like sully you guys' mood? Because I know I was in a mood and they were like, no, like you're fine. I was like, okay. So I think after we had like a discussion about it, we're like, we can totally change how I like set up my character. I think it will be a lot better, which is why I'm really like aching to play Frosthaven again so that it can be like redemption arc. So we can get this character going and beat more scenarios than having like almost an even amount of wins and losses. So
I hope that your esteem and your enjoyment of it comes back, because you definitely don't want to be playing a game that just feels awful the entire time.
No. Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about on this worst category?
No, I mean it was really just that with like emotions and experience. But it was, again, nothing against Frosthaven. It's a great game. It was just how I set up my character, and it was just stacking up on itself, and spawning scenarios are the worst.
Gotcha. Yeah, no fun, especially when it's the horde for 4 players. So my worst category, I do have 3 that definitely stood out. First one being keep the heroes out. Now this game I think would probably be really fun in 2 players, but I played a 4-player game of this, and the way it works is on your turn, you're using these action cards in your hand to mitigate disaster on the board. There's all these little minions that you're trying to defeat, all these map tiles that they'll be spawning on. But the thing that made this one just not one that I ever want to come back to is the downtime is ridiculous. Like, you're doing nothing on other people's turns, and on their turn they're basically taking all of these actions with their cards. And no joke, the entire game, I think we won. I don't know if we won or not. I don't really care, honestly. But I got 1 turn, I think, in the whole game.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think I got 1 turn, and that was it. And we played like 2 hours of this, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, this is butts. Like I don't want to play this
Wow.
ever again with 4. And I think it could probably be fun at 2 because you're going back and forth
Yeah.
and you can talk about what's going on without necessarily quarterbacking. So I think that maybe a
Yeah.
2-player version of this would be great, but 4 players, I can never recommend this game. Don't ever want to play it again at 4
Wow.
players, which was a shame because I love the artwork. It's gotten these tiny little meeples like Root does, where you have these cute little animated
Aw.
characters. Look at them! Oh my gosh, they're
I was just
adorable.
gonna say that sleepy little Cthulhu is very cute.
They're adorable. So the miniatures are
Look at
great.
the
So
little
shout out to my
witches.
friends Priscilla and Kyle for teaching. I think I'd like to play this at lower player counts, but I don't want to play it again at 4. Sorry, guys. Next up
Oh.
is the Feast of Dim Sum. Steam up a Feast of Dim Sum. This game is bad, unfortunately.
Oh,
It was
man. I
beautiful.
actually had eyed that, so I'm
Don't
glad
do
that
it.
I'm glad you told
Don't
me.
do it.
That's so sad though.
It's bad. Don't do it. So Feast Up a Feast of Dim Sum is it's almost like a set collection game. You are on your turn, you're getting 2 actions, and you are either going to rotate these dim sum in front of you, you're taking 1 dim sum from like a tray in front of you, or you're gaining a card or playing a card and also potentially rotating. And so that's pretty much the entire game flow. There's not a lot of big decisions happening. Everything feels pretty scripted as you play. The components are great, but it felt like I just wasn't making any meaningful choices the entire time. The artwork is lovely. The pieces are great, but I don't ever want to play this one again. My friend Ashley taught me this one, and you could just see in her eyes like the frustration. She was like, oh gosh, no, this game sucks. And I think we both had the same emotions as we were playing, just being like, no, we had so much hope for this.
Yeah.
It was
That's
so
a
sad.
bummer. Yeah, it looks adorable.
Yeah, so not great. I don't recommend this at all, unfortunately. We have a couple of comments here. Let's see if anything shows up. Okay, interested in playing Rails and Sails. Just discovered I have 2 copies. Hey, there we go. So you got another Rails and Sails fan, Corinn. Awesome.
Yeah.
And that brings us to my last game. This is definitely the worst one that I've played, and it was a prototype review copy. This is Imperial Twing. So keep that in mind when I talk about this, is it was a in-process work, but it was a 2.5 was like the official rating. But this is Imperial Twing. So it is going to be coming to crowdfunding. I put out my review for them and said, hey, these are my pros, cons, and neutrals. Let me know what you think if you want me to make a video. They did not want me to make a video. So that's something to be said with how it was pretty scathing. If you want to take out the full review, it's on my ratings on the page. But they did say that they went back and they're changing the rules dramatically because some of the things that I pointed out, they were like, yeah, this is probably an issue. And so they are going back and changing things drastically. But as it was, not a great experience at all. Just it was a game where I was going through the motions for the majority of it. Decision space was almost none. It was not great, unfortunately. It felt like the game that would never end. That's not a great place to be. Cool artwork, weird theme, but overall one that I thought the aesthetic was cool, which is why I picked it up, but not a great experience. So Imperial Twing, I hope that their new edition, their new revisions make it something that I'm excited to come back to. Because I did keep the copy because I was like, there's some promise in here. So hopefully they're able to redo that rule set and then I can try it again with the new rule set. So hopefully it's one that does show later.
As long as they're taking feedback and
yes, so that's something I enjoyed, that they were actually willing to take it and hopefully make something better backwards.
That's good.
Yep. Anything else, Corinn, on this one? Because I believe that's it for our best and worst. What are some games that you're excited to play?
We did mention it already, the Scythe expeditions.
Oh, is it coming soon?
No, I mean it's just, you know, in the distance. Excited for more Scythe. Probably I'm looking at all my board games. Again, looking forward to playing Frosthaven, Redemption Arc. I was just thinking about playing if my brain could work, trekking through time.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is that?
I was like, what is that? That one was really fun. Oh, and speaking of traveling through time, Temporum, I got my husband, it was like an expansion, or I think it's expansion. It was, I think it came out a while ago, but it was more like futuristic stuff. There was like things you could add to it. So I'm excited to
Temporum for what game?
Temporum.
What game is it?
Despawn. It's like you,
okay.
You are like going through time. Yeah, this is different than trekking through history.
Okay.
It was just making
gotcha. Also
time
traveling.
traveling. Yeah. Alternate timelines. I I think there's like 3 different ages that you're like. It's been a while since I played Temporum, but it's like 3 different ages, or you're going to like through different ages. Gosh, it's been so long. I think it's a drafting worker placement kind of game. My husband really enjoyed it, and then I got him like the expansion, so I'm excited to see like what that adds to it. Yeah.
I've
Have you ever played this?
never seen this. I didn't know this existed till just now.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Change history by any means necessary as you time travel to a perfect world. Ooh.
Yeah. So maybe you go through like a bunch of eras. Like I said, it's been a really long time since I've played. I think I'm like trying to think. Like, do you start at the caveman age and like work your way to the future?
Nice.
I'm really trying to remember. So I'm excited to dive back into that and then use the expansion to see if it like, adds more to the game. So maybe that will be next time we talk about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So the games that I'm excited for, first off, I want to play more Darwin's Journey. I love that initial play. I want to play more. Hopefully I get to play some today. So fingers crossed for that. Because I've played it once through. It's all going to be smooth now. I've got everything all organized and ready to be set up. Life is great. Next game that I want to play is there's one last expansion that I need to play for Endless Winter. So I'm hoping to play the Rivers and Rafts expansion for that. So Endless Winter it lives and dies by its expansions. That's my go-to term here. So this is a great one. Awesome. I hope it's good. I enjoy the cave painting one. So this one has you racing to specific spots to like claim landmarks. It has these fishing tokens that you can gain more resource production from. So hopefully that's a great one. I hope that it's good. So that's Endless Winter, Rivers, and Rafts. And then the last game that I want to play is another one that just is in the back of my head. And that's because I think the expansion sounds so cool. It's called Keeper. Keeper at Sea is the expansion that offers a solo mode. And also it adds a nautical theme, and not necessarily nautical. It's like you're a fisherman, basically. So the original one has you with a farm. Okay, that works. So the original has you playing with like a farm, and you've got this foldy board that you're using to generate resources and like allocate actions. I have no idea. I haven't played it, so that's why I really want to play it. My friend Priscilla has a copy, so hopefully she is able to teach me. She might come and hang out sometime soon. So maybe I get this played sooner rather than later. But I love the game Keyflower, which is by the same designer, Richard Reese. And this is set in that same universe, but with a funky action selection system. And if I enjoy it, that means that I can go seek out the Keeper at Sea version. So as mentioned before, it's got this weird little foldy board that you use for your actions or your resource generation. It is, though. Look at this. I don't think it shows it very well here. Where is it? There's got to be a picture of it because it's like
someone's got to have a picture of it.
There's resources, there's things. Show me the foldy board.
Come on, board game geek.
Show
it to me. I see that round thing. Is that part of the game, or someone just made it?
I have no idea. I have no concept of what this game actually looks like. I just know it has a foldy board. Aha! You can't see it in motion, though. That's not even it. Okay.
I like the organization, though, and the colors.
Yeah, it looks great.
Very nice. It's great.
There it is. No? That might be it. I don't know, man. Okay. So
I believe you. I believe you.
It's got a foldy board. Trust me. So that's what I'm excited for. And I hope that it's good because it looks fun. I like those games. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We got a couple of comments before we close up. Padre here says, in Florida, visiting your brother, played Tidal Blades, Heroes of the Reef. First time, good strategy, increasing your luck with dice rolling. I enjoy that one. We actually played that pretty recently, too. The Tidal Blades, Heroes of the Reef. Reminds me a lot of Champions of Midgard, where you're collecting dice and going on these quests, but you're doing a lot more dice rolling instead of gathering. So you're doing more tests more often, which can lean into that randomness because sometimes you do just get unlucky, which sucks. But I think that since you're doing so many tests, it does even out overall throughout the course of the game.
Sure.
But that's it. Those are all of our comments. Those are the games that we've been playing. Those are the games we're excited for. Our favorites, our least favorites. Corinn, anything else to add before we close out?
Just glad to be back.
Are there any videos that you're excited to have come out soon? I know that you were getting into the swing and doing some more recording. What are some projects that you're looking forward to coming up on your channel?
I have finally finished the Marvel Champions box that I have customized for my brother-in-law. So I'm excited to share that with you guys. I'm definitely going to be doing a board game organization / tour, because there are more board games that we have now. So I'm excited to do that with you guys, as well as some more diving into and unboxing the Year of Sanderson boxes that we have had, our subscription boxes. That's been really fun to look at. So I'm going to do more of those. Yeah, there's just a lot of things. I'm getting back onto the train because we're healed now. We're ready to go.
Awesome. I'm glad you got that energy. You're excited for things. If you aren't subscribed to our channel here at SideGame LLC, please make sure that you do. It's the best way to help us grow. And thank you so much if you're already subscribed. And please make sure that you're subscribed over to Corinn's channel at SuperBlondenerd. There's a link in the description below. I think if you hit the @ symbol on the YouTube thing, it will take you directly there. But yeah, support us. We're enjoying making content. It's awesome to have you back on the channel, Corinn. This has been a great morning.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Mackenzie. Go play your board games. I will go play mine.
Woo! Excellent. Thank you so much for being here and commenting, everybody. Enjoy the interaction. This has been great. Excellent time talking about all sorts of fun games. Great questions, Hop. Thanks, Padre, for joining. Mike, thank you for sharing your enthusiasm about Rails and sales. And thank you all for watching SideGame Strong.